I walked down my wedding aisle alone, while my entire family sat at home, celebrating my humiliation. No father to walk me. No mother to wipe my tears. No aunts, no uncles, no cousins. 0 out of 56 invited family members dared to show up. They'd all boycotted my wedding for one unforgivable sin: I chose to marry Elias Brooks, a man who worked as a security guard. The Austin venue was breathtaking, draped in expensive ivory linen and fresh peonies I'd saved for over a year to afford. The string quartet played soft, dreamy wedding music that should have felt magical. Instead, it sounded like a funeral dirge for every lie my family had ever told me about loving me unconditionally. Every single chair on both sides of the aisle was hollow and silent. Rows and rows of empty seats, stretching from the entrance all the way to the altar, staring back at me like a cruel, mocking judgment. A stranger scrolling her phone in the venue lobby later told me it looked like I was marrying a ghost. No witnesses. No family, no joy, just a bride walking straight into a life her own blood refused to bless. The worst part? This wasn't a last-minute misunderstanding. It was a calculated, coordinated family ambush. My mother Elaine had orchestrated the entire boycott. 3 nights before my wedding, I'd accidentally opened her group chat with every single member of our extended Carter family. The messages burned themselves into my brain, searing every shred of childhood loyalty I'd ever held for them. We don't attend this farce. A security guard is beneath our family name, let her learn her lesson. She'll come crawling back, begging for our forgiveness in a month. No one replies yes. No exceptions. We cut her off until she dumps him. They didn't just decline my invitation. They banded together to punish me. To humiliate me on my wedding day, the one day every girl dreams of having her family's full love and support. They preferred to watch me stand alone rather than let me love a man they deemed too poor, too ordinary, too low class for their perfect suburban prestige. For 28 years, I'd bent over backward to earn their approval. I'd gotten the right grades, attended the right parties, dated the right wealthy lawyers and real estate brokers they'd handpicked for me. I'd played the obedient, polished Carter daughter, careful never to tarnish their social reputation in Austin's upper-middle-class circles. I'd spent my whole life craving their pride, starving for their unconditional love, and they threw me away over a uniform. Elias noticed my hands shaking before I even stepped foot down the aisle. He stood waiting for me at the altar, his dark eyes steady and soft, dressed in a simple tailored suit that cost far less than the designer outfits my family wore to trivial charity galas. He'd quit his usual evening security shift just for this day, turning down overtime pay without a second thought, just to marry me. He was the only person who'd ever chosen me over status, over pride, over pretense. We can stop this right now, he'd murmured 10 minutes before the ceremony, his voice low enough only I could hear. If this hurts too bad, we walk away. No questions, no pressure. I'd shaken my head and squeezed his hand tight until my knuckles whitened. I wasn't walking away from him. I was walking away from them. I'd sent out 56 handwritten invitations. 56 personalized notes begging my family to give the man I loved a chance. I'd pleaded, I'd reasoned, I'd cried over the phone with my aunt, my grandmother, my own sister. I'd told them Elias was kind, loyal, hardworking, that he loved me more than any rich man ever could. None of it mattered. To the Carters, kindness didn't pay for country club dues. Loyalty didn't boost social standing. A good heart wasn't enough to justify letting one of their own marry a blue-collar nobody. So I walked alone. My white wedding dress dragged across the marble floor, the only sound in the entire venue besides the quartet's music being my quiet, ragged breathing. I kept my chin high, refusing to let the empty chairs break me, refusing to give my family the satisfaction of seeing me crumble. I would not cry for people who refused to show up for me. A handful of my closest friends stood scattered in the back rows, their eyes glistening with tears, heartbroken for me. A few venue staff lingered by the doors, awkward and sympathetic. But no family, no blood, no one who'd held me as a baby, raised me, claimed to love me. When I reached Elias at the altar, he pulled me close without hesitation, his warm arms wrapping around my trembling shoulders. He didn't speak of the empty seats. He didn't pity me. He just held me, like my broken family's betrayal was irrelevant next to the love we shared. You're my whole family now, I whispered against his chest, my voice cracking. Always, he promised. We exchanged our vows in front of near-empty rows. Two people choosing each other against an entire family's cruel judgment. We kissed, sealed our marriage, and turned to face the silence where a crowd of celebrating loved ones should have been. It was my best friend Mia who pulled out her phone and filmed it. 10 seconds of raw, unfiltered heartbreak and defiance. 10 seconds of me and my new husband, standing united in front of a completely empty wedding aisle. She posted it to her Instagram story with a sharp, defiant caption, "Her family left her empty. She still chose love, she never meant for it to go viral. She just wanted me to have one perfect, captured moment of my wedding day." But the clip blew up overnight. It spread across Texas local pages, wedding forums, and suburban community groups, racking up tens of thousands of views. At first, the comments were all sympathy, people devastated for the bride with no family. furious at my classist, cruel relatives. Then the comments started changing. Strangers began zooming in on Elias's face. They cross-referenced his features, his build, the subtle, disciplined posture he'd never fully shed. They started digging, connecting dots no one in my privileged, ignorant family had ever bothered to see. One comment pinned to the top of the viral post stopped my breath cold, turning my entire humiliating wedding day upside down. This man is not a random security guard. That's Elias Brooks, the retired elite personal protection specialist who guarded billionaires, politicians, and A-list celebrities for a decade. He's not poor, he's not ordinary, he's famously reclusive, independently wealthy, and only takes low-level venue security jobs to stay off the grid. I froze mid-glass of wedding champagne. My eyes locked on the screen. Beside me, Elias went completely still. The calm, gentle guard my family had mocked and discarded had no reaction to the viral revelation unfolding right in front of us, and in that terrifying, electrifying second, I knew the worst humiliation of my life was about to become my family's worst nightmare. The glow from my phone lit up our tiny apartment kitchen long after we got home from the reception. Half-empty takeout containers sat scattered across the counter, leftover fried rice and cold spring rolls we'd barely touched. Elias leaned against the cabinet, arms folded across his chest, watching me scroll through the flood of new comments pouring into Mia's Instagram post. Every refresh brought another layer of wild speculation. People were linking old news articles, blurry event photos, forum threads from years back. Screenshots popped up showing Elias's name tied to high-profile security contracts most civilians never heard about. Some users were even digging up old interview snippets where he'd refused media attention and walked away from seven-figure job offers. I set my phone face down on the counter with a sharp click. My hands were shaking. All those months I defended him to my family, I'd only known half the truth. I'd married a man whose whole life story had been locked away behind a quiet, unassuming uniform. Is it true? I asked, my voice thin. I tried to keep the anger out of my tone, but hurt seeped through anyway. Everything they are saying online. Elias pushed off the cabinet and ran one hand through his dark hair. He looked tired, worn down, not defensive. He pulled out a dining chair and sat down, gesturing for me to sit beside him. It's mostly true, he admitted slowly. I spent 10 years doing that high-risk protection work. The money was good, more than enough to live comfortably for the rest of my life. But that world burned me out. Constant threats, non-stop travel, people only seeing the value of what I could do for them instead of who I actually was. He told me how he'd walked away from it all. He wanted anonymity, peace, a simple quiet life. Taking the venue security job was intentional. Low stress, predictable hours, no high-profile clients chasing him down. He liked being invisible. When we met at a local coffee shop 2 years ago, he never planned to unpack that whole past for anyone. I was afraid, he said quietly, his gaze dropping to the tabletop. I was scared if you knew how much money I had, or what I used to do, you would start seeing me differently. I wanted you to love Elias, not the retired bodyguard with a big bank account. I sat there absorbing his words, a messy swirl of emotions churning inside my chest. I understood his fear. At the same time, a sharp sting lingered. We'd fought so hard against my family's shallow obsession with status, yet he'd hidden this massive piece of himself from me. Before I could say anything else, my phone buzzed violently. Multiple text messages poured in from different cousins. My mother Elaine's name popped up at the top of the screen. My family had seen the viral thread. The first texts were dismissive. They called the internet rumors fake gossip, social media nonsense. One cousin accused me of paying internet users to manufacture a fake backstory just to prove them wrong. Then the tone shifted, turning sharp and accusatory. They weren't apologizing. They were angry at me for creating this public embarrassment for the Carter name. My mother's text cut deep. You have dragged our whole family's reputation through the dirt with this ridiculous internet stunt. Stop feeding these lies before everyone in our social circle laughs at us. A bitter laugh escaped my throat. For years they had mocked Elias for being nothing more than a security guard. Now that strangers online uncovered his real history, they refused to believe it. They would rather label the whole thing a hoax than admit they had judged everything completely wrong. I showed Elias the messages. He scanned the screen and sighed. They aren't ready to admit they made a mistake, he said. Pride runs too deep in that family. Sleep didn't come easy that night. I laid awake beside Elias, staring at the ceiling, replaying every ugly conversation from the past 6 months. All the dinner table sneers, the passive-aggressive remarks, the 56 invitations met with total silence. My family hadn't judged Elias by his character, they had judged him by a job title. And even when facts proved them wrong, they still refused to budge. By sunrise the next morning, the story had spread further. Local Texas news outlets picked up the viral wedding clip. Reporters started reaching out to both Mia and me asking for interviews. New online posts popped up showing verified old work records matching Elias's name. More people stepped forward online confirming his former career. The hoax theory started falling apart piece by piece. My phone kept ringing. Relatives I had not spoken to in months blew up my voicemail. Some tried to act friendly, pretending none of the boycott ever happened. Others lashed out, furious that outside strangers were calling out the Carter family's classism across social platforms. I got a call from my older sister mid-morning. Her voice was tight and frustrated, no warmth whatsoever. "Mom is beside herself," she told me. "Everyone at the country club is talking about our family. You need to take that video down and make a public statement clearing our name. This is all your fault." I stared out our apartment window at the quiet city street below. A year ago, I would have panicked. I would have scrambled to smooth things over, to repair my family's image, to earn back their approval. That girl was gone. "I am not taking anything down," I answered flatly. "You all chose to boycott my wedding. You chose to judge my husband without knowing a single thing about him. You will have to live with the consequences of that choice." My sister sputtered, shocked by my pushback. She mumbled something about me being selfish and hung up before I could reply. I set the phone down and turned toward Elias. He stood in the doorway, listening to the whole call. There was sadness in his eyes, but also quiet respect. "Their pride is still their priority," I said. "It will take more than viral internet posts to break that," he replied. Outside our walls, public opinion continued to swing hard in my favor. Strangers online praised me for choosing love over status. Thousands of people ripped into my family's snobbish behavior, but the Carters dug their heels in deeper. They closed ranks, circled the wagons, and prepared to fight back. I knew this was far from over. My family would not simply fold and say sorry. They were already plotting how to turn this whole situation back around in their favor. The following week blurred into a messy cycle of social media fallout and family harassment. I turned off most of my app notifications, yet texts and voicemails still leaked through. My relatives bounced between fake concern and unfiltered rage, flipping moods like a switch whenever it suited them. Elaine sent a long, rambling email, claiming she only ever wanted to protect me, painting the entire wedding boycott as some tough love lesson meant to open my eyes. Not a single line held an apology. I sat at my home desk, staring at that email for 20 minutes. My freelance design work sat untouched in another browser tab. Every time I tried to focus, my mind drifted back to the empty wedding aisle, to the group chat messages I'd read 3 nights before I married. Old wounds kept reopening. Elias noticed how burnt out I'd grown. He brought me a mug of warm tea and leaned against the edge of my desk. He never pushed me to forgive my family, never told me I should just let it go. That was one of the reasons I loved him. He let me feel every ounce of my anger and grief without pressure. "You don't owe them any explanation," he reminded me softly. "Not an email, not a phone call, not a public defense. The truth is already out there." I nodded, but relief refused to settle in my chest. The internet had proven who he really was, yet my family still refused to accept reality. They started spreading new gossip within their suburban social circles. They whispered that Elias's wealth came from shady, dangerous contracts. They told old friends that I'd fallen under some manipulative man's spell, that I was brainwashed and incapable of making my own choices. Word of those whispers reached me through an old high school friend, who still moved in the same Austin upper-middle-class circles. She called me one evening, voice quiet with discomfort. "Elaine is telling everyone Elias made his money from sketchy private security jobs," she said. "Lots of people are buying it. Some are saying you two are hiding something terrible." That stung. It twisted everything. My family could not undo the viral receipts online, so they shifted tactics. Instead of calling him poor and worthless, they called him corrupt and dangerous. It was easier for them to rewrite the story than admit their class prejudice had destroyed our relationship. That night, I hit my breaking point. For years I had bent, compromised, bit my tongue, hoping they would finally see me. I was done playing the docile daughter. I opened my phone and blocked every single member of my extended family. Every aunt, uncle, cousin, my sister, and finally my mother and father. One by one, their names vanished from my message list. It felt like cutting off a limb. Even after all the cruelty, grief knotted tight in my throat. These were the people who raised me. But love could not survive only on my side. If they chose lies over their own daughter, I could not keep leaving the door wide open for them to hurt me again. When Elias saw my red, puffy eyes, he pulled me onto the couch beside him. He did not tell me not to cry. He just held me while I let all the built-up heartache spill out. 2 days later, a surprise knock landed on our apartment door. I peered through the peephole and froze. My cousin Clara stood out in the hallway. She was the one who had once cried with me over the phone, begging our family to give Elias a chance before the wedding. I had hoped she might stand apart from the rest. I unlocked the door and pulled it open halfway. She stepped inside uninvited, her expression tight and conflicted. "I got your texts bouncing back," she said. "You blocked everybody. Mom and Elaine are losing their minds." "Good," I replied flatly. "They brought this on themselves." Clara shifted her weight, glancing toward the living room where Elias sat reading a book. Her voice dropped to a strained whisper. "I'm not here to fight with you. But you have to understand how this looks for all of us. The country club gossip is nonstop. The whole family is getting dragged. Elaine says if you delete all mention of the wedding online and agree to come to Thanksgiving dinner, they might be willing to make peace. I stared at her in complete disbelief. There were no apologies for boycotting my wedding. No remorse for the cruel group chat plans. No acknowledgement that they had misjudged Elias horribly. Their so-called peace offer came with conditions. I had to pretend none of it ever happened, and show up to their holiday event to save their social reputation. Let me get this straight, I said slowly. I get to pretend my wedding humiliation never occurred. I show up for Thanksgiving to repair their social image, and then maybe, possibly, they will talk to me again. Clara flinched. You are being harsh. Family is everything. Family does not show up to group chats planning to humiliate you on your wedding day, I shot back. Family does not send 56 invitations and choose 0 acceptances out of pride. They threw me away. Now that the public sees how cruel they acted, they want me to clean up their mess. Her face hardened. The small flicker of sympathy I thought she held faded away. She was choosing the family tribe over me after all. You are being selfish, she snapped. You are letting an outsider tear apart decades of blood ties. One day you will regret burning every bridge. She spun on her heel and stormed out of our apartment, slamming the door hard behind her. The sharp bang echoed through every quiet corner of the space. I stood alone in the entryway, cold dread settling over me. Even the relative I'd clung to as a possible ally had turned. I was truly isolated from every person I had grown up with. Elias set his book down and walked over to me. He saw how defeated I looked. I thought she might be different, I murmured. Most people fear being cast out from their own circle more than they fear hurting someone else, he answered gently. My phone, sitting on the kitchen counter, lit up with a new notification. A mutual family acquaintance had sent me a screenshot of a private family group chat. Clara had already reported our conversation back to Elaine. The new messages popped up one after another. Lila will come around once she is lonely enough. Do not give her any ground. She needs to learn her place. My breath caught in my throat. They still believed I would cave. They still waited for me to crawl back begging for their love, but this time, I had no intention of surrendering. The battle was only getting started. The weeks dragged on, and loneliness crept in even beneath the safety of Elias's love. Blocking my whole family had freed me from their daily harassment, yet old wounds lingered. I grew quiet, stuck in a gray space between relief and sorrow. I grieved for the warm, loving family I had always wanted, even as I fully understood that family never truly existed. My freelance graphic design project slowed down. Some old clients were friends of the Carters. Quietly, one by one, they pulled away from booking my services. No one said it out loud, but I knew the reason. My mother's social influence still stretched wide across Austin's upper-middle-class circles. She was punishing me professionally, picking apart my livelihood because I refused to bend to her will. I never spoke of these small losses to Elias at first. I did not want him to feel responsible for everything I was losing. I buried the stress deep inside, putting on a calm face every evening when he came home from his venue shift. Doubt began to twist inside my head in the dark hours of the night. What if my family had a point? What if I had walked away from too much for this marriage? Secrets hung heavy between us. Even though he had told me about his former career, large pieces of his old life stayed locked away. He rarely talked about the clients he protected, never showed me old photos, kept a password-protected locked storage box high in our closet that he never opened in front of me. Every time I tried to ask about it, he would gently redirect the conversation. Small, quiet distrust started to take root. I told myself I was being irrational. Still, the thought gnawed at me. What else was he hiding? One afternoon, I received a long voice note from my childhood best friend, Haley. We had grown up side by side. I'd considered her one of the few people outside blood ties who would stand faithfully by my side. I pressed play while sitting at my work desk. Her tone was pained, apologetic, yet firm. Lila, I hate this. But my parents are close with Elaine. They are pressuring me nonstop. If I keep staying in close contact with you, my whole family will freeze me out. I can't risk that. I'm sorry. I think we need to step back from our friendship for a while. The audio cut off. I sat frozen. Another person I loved was slipping away, crushed under the weight of my family's social power. That night I broke down completely in front of Elias. All the bottled up anxiety spilled over. The lost clients, Haley abandoning me, the endless loneliness, and all the unspoken questions about his past. Did you ever think about what this would cost me? I asked, voice shaking. I lost my whole family. I lost old friends. My work is suffering. And there are still parts of you won't let me see. Elias's jaw tightened. Hurt flashed across his face. He did not get angry. He just looked exhausted. I never wanted you to sacrifice all of this, he said. I would have walked away before I watched you lose every person you cared about. But this was your choice. And about my past? Some of those memories are traumatic. That is why I keep them locked away. It is not about hiding things from you. His explanation made sense logically, yet my bruised heart could not fully accept it right then. We went to bed that night without resolving the fight. A cold, uncomfortable distance sat between us under the same blanket. While our marriage hit this rough patch, online sleuths kept digging. New fragments of Elias's old life kept surfacing across social media. A former colleague posted a short public thread describing how Elias had turned down a multi-million-dollar annual contract to retire early. Old local news archives resurfaced, confirming his skill and respected reputation within private security circles. The online consensus tilted more and more in our favor. Still, my family refused to surrender. They doubled down on their smear campaign. Rumors circulated that Elias had fled his old line of work because of some terrible undisclosed incident. One evening, a stranger sent me a Dropbox link. Inside were scanned copies of public court records and old industry credentials. Hard, irrefutable proof of Elias's legitimate career, his retirement paperwork, and legal documents showing his accumulated wealth. No crime, no scandal, no shady dealings. Just a man who chose to walk away from high-pressure danger. I stared at the files on my screen. The evidence was absolute. There was no more room for my family to call it fake internet gossip. Part of me wanted to forward every single document straight to Elaine. I imagined sending the whole folder into the family group chat and watching them scramble for excuses. A bitter, sweet craving for revenge burned in my chest, but I hesitated. Winning online arguments would not fix the hole inside of me. It would not bring back the family I once dreamed of having. Elias wandered over behind me and glanced at my screen over my shoulder. He saw what I was reading. You could send those, he said quietly. It would destroy their lies. But ask yourself what you truly gain from it. They will find some new way to twist the story. He was right. They would invent some new accusation. They would never simply say they were sorry. At that exact moment, my phone lit up with a notification from an unknown number. It was a text forwarded from one of my distant cousins. Elaine had sent it out to every remaining family contact. Lila has been manipulated by a clever con man. Do not believe the viral internet lies. We need to save her before it is too late. My stomach turned. Even with ironclad proof sitting right in front of them, my mother was framing my husband as a scam artist and painting me as a helpless, brainwashed victim. The facts no longer mattered to them. Only their pride mattered. I closed the Dropbox tab. I would not play their game. But I knew this war was far from finished. The truth was fully unearthed now, and it was only a matter of time before it crashed down onto the Carter family. The verified documents leaked out into the public sphere without me lifting a finger. The stranger who'd sent me the Dropbox files shared copies to the same local community forum where Elias's identity had first gone viral. No names, no personal rants, just scanned industry certifications, retirement contracts, tax record redacted statements, and old press clippings. Hard, unarguable paperwork. Overnight, the con man narrative my family had been pushing collapsed completely. Social media blew up all over again. Comments flooded in, furious at how the Carters had smeared a man whose only crime was wanting a quiet, ordinary life. Local Austin influencers picked up the story. Podcast hosts talked about class bias and toxic family dynamics. Sympathy poured toward me, and scorn rained down on my mother's social circle. I sat at my desk early that morning scrolling through the flood of posts, my chest tight with conflicting feelings. This was the big reveal I had once daydreamed about. The moment when everyone would see how wrong my family had been. But victory tasted hollow instead of sweet. There was no joy, only exhaustion. Elias found me staring at my screen, coffee in his hand. He set it down gently. It's all out there now, I said quietly. They can't call it fake anymore. Pride doesn't die because of paperwork, he warned. They will find a new angle. He was proven right within hours. Word reached Elaine fast. She gathered the whole extended family for an emergency private dinner at her lavish suburban home. None of them texted or called me directly, but a second cousin, who felt guilty over everything that had unfolded, sent me screenshots from inside that dinner's group chat. They did not discuss apologizing. They did not discuss admitting their mistake. Instead, they spun a brand new story. Elaine's theory went like this: Elias had hidden his wealth and career on purpose, as some cruel premeditated trap. He pretended to be a low-paid security guard just to trick the whole Carter family, to humiliate them once the truth came out. I was cast as his naive, unwitting pawn. Reading those messages made my hands shake. They would rather paint my husband as a scheming manipulator than accept the simple truth. They had judged a man based purely on his job title. My old clients, the ones who drifted away under my mother's influence, started reaching back out. Emails rolled in, apologetic, eager to book design work again. Word spread through Austin's social circles that the Carter family's accusations held no weight. My professional life slowly started repairing itself, yet I could not bring myself to celebrate. The marital tension between Elias and me still lingered. The locked storage box in our closet loomed like a silent wall between us. Even with all the public facts laid bare, I still had not heard the full weight of his past. Old trauma, high-risk assignments, losses he'd never spoken about. I understood it was painful, yet part of me ached to know every part of the man I'd married. That evening I brought it up again after dinner. The dishes sat half-washed in the sink. I don't need every gory detail, I told him. But I can't keep living with this invisible secret hanging over us. We survived a viral scandal together. Why can't you trust me with your pain? Elias fell silent. He stared at the floor for a long moment. I never wanted to drag those horrors into our marriage, he answered. I saw people hurt, I saw threats, I carried other people's nightmares for years. I wanted our home to be free of all that. I am your wife, I said, voice soft but firm. Not some sheltered stranger you have to protect from every hard truth. Before he could reply, a notification popped up on my laptop. A news article had just published. The headline read, Viral Empty Aisle Wedding, The Hidden Past of Elias Brooks. Reporters had reached out to Elaine for comment, and she had given them a statement. My breath caught as I read her words. My daughter has fallen victim to an elaborate psychological game. This man planned this whole spectacle from the very start. We only boycotted the wedding to save her from a dangerous hidden agenda. The article spread fast. Even with all the proof online, my mother was still convincing a small subset of people that Elias was some master manipulator. Rage flared inside me. All the restraint I'd held on to started to fray. I wanted to call her, to blast every document in her face, to scream about the 56 ignored invitations and the group chat plotting my humiliation. Elias placed a hand over mine, calming my trembling fingers off the keyboard. Fighting her in the press won't heal us, he said. This is our home, our marriage. Let her play her games out there. But in here, we deal with us. Late that night, after long quiet conversation, he dragged that locked storage box down from the high closet shelf. He entered the combination, and lifted the lid. Inside were faded photographs, old mission reports redacted for privacy, medals, and a few worn-out personal mementos. He sat beside me on the couch, and for the first time, he told me about the fear, the loss, the burnout that pushed him to walk away from his old life. I listened, and my heart ached for him. I understood why he'd buried all of it, but even as walls fell between husband and wife, I knew the war with my family was far from finished. Elaine would not stop until she'd won back her social status. And soon, she would try a new tactic, reaching out to me with fake remorse, pretending she was ready to make peace. The deeper Elias and I bonded behind closed doors, the harder my family fought to destroy us publicly. After my mother's newspaper statement calling Elias a manipulative schemer, the social media backlash split sharply down the middle. While most people defended us, a small, loud crowd bought Elaine's victim narrative, convincing themselves my husband was a calculating ex-agent who preyed on naive suburban girls to settle old ego scores. Elaine thrived on that tiny victory. For days, she stayed quiet online, letting the conspiracy theory simmer. She stopped sending angry texts, stopped leaking gossip, stopped pressuring relatives to cut me off. To the outside world, she looked like a heartbroken, worried mother giving her daughter space. I knew better. Silence from my mother was never peace. It was preparation. Inside our home, Elias and I finally cleared every shadow between us. After he opened his locked box and shared the trauma of his old high-risk career, the distrust that had lingered in our marriage melted away. I saw him fully now, not just the quiet security guard my family mocked, not just the wealthy retired specialist online strangers fawned over, but a man who'd spent years carrying other people's danger until his soul burned thin. He'd chosen simplicity not out of weakness, but out of exhaustion. He'd chosen me because I saw kindness before status. Our marriage healed fast. But my family had no intention of letting me heal alongside it. On a rainy Tuesday evening, my phone pinged with a text from my father, the first message he'd sent me in months. It was gentle, soft, uncharacteristically tender. Your mom misses you. We've been thinking a lot about the wedding. Maybe we were too harsh. Can we talk? No arguments. Just family. My chest ached. After months of pure cruelty, the smallest crumb of warmth almost made me cave. Old habits died hard. I'd spent 28 years craving their love, their apology, their approval. Elias read the message over my shoulder and frowned. Be careful, he warned. This is how they reel you back in. I wanted to believe it was genuine. I wanted to believe my family was finally waking up to their own cruelty. Against my better judgment, I replied, I'll come for coffee this weekend. The second I hit send, I could feel the trap snap shut. The weekend arrived gray and cold. I drove to my parents' upscale neighborhood alone, leaving Elias at home. I told myself I needed to face this without my husband's protection, to finally get the apology I deserved. Their house smelled like lavender and expensive cedar, the same scent I grew up with. The second I stepped inside, the warm, remorseful energy vanished. Elaine sat on the sofa, perfectly composed, no trace of guilt. My father sat silently beside her, once again letting her speak for the whole family. We're willing to move past this, she said coolly. But only on one condition. You come home, publicly announce you were misled, distance yourself from him. We'll help you rebuild your reputation, your clients, your social standing. I stared at her in disbelief. You're not apologizing. You're asking me to betray my husband. Your husband ruined our family name, she snapped, dropping the soft act entirely. He set this whole trap. We were right to protect you. You're just too blinded by love to see it. The 56 invitations, I said quietly. The group chat planning my humiliation. You boycotted my wedding before you knew a single thing about his past. This was never about protecting me. This was about your pride. Elaine's smile turned icy. If you refuse to fix this, she said, then you are no longer our daughter. We will make sure every single person in the city knows you chose a dangerous, secretive stranger over your own blood. We will ruin you professionally and socially until you have nothing left but him. In that moment, every last piece of childhood loyalty shattered. I stood up, my hand steady for the first time in months. You already ruined me, I told her. On my wedding day. The difference is, I survived it. And I won't apologize for choosing the man who chose me back. I walked out without another word. By the time I got home, my family had launched their final smear campaign. They sent mass messages to every country club contact, every old family friend, every local business owner. They painted me as brainwashed, reckless, and delusional, and Elias as a volatile ex-operative hiding darkness beneath his calm exterior. Several of my newly returned clients canceled their contracts again. Old acquaintances blocked me. Social whispers returned 10 times worse than before. I hit absolute rock bottom. I lost the last fragments of my family, my social reputation, and my professional stability all at once. The only person left standing with me was Elias. That night, I cried in his arms for hours, not from anger, but from grief. Grief for the family I'd loved my whole life, who'd never loved me back. But when I finished crying, something inside me hardened. I was no longer scared of losing them. I was ready to fight for the life I'd built. ## Chapter 7 Rock bottom stripped away every fake belief I'd carried my whole life. I no longer hoped for my family's apology. I no longer craved their validation. I no longer twisted myself smaller to fit their shallow, status-obsessed version of a perfect daughter. If they wanted war, I would finally stop defending and start countering. Elias stood beside me the entire time, never pushing me to fight, never pushing me to forgive. He simply gave me space to choose my own strength. I don't want revenge, I told him one morning over coffee. I want freedom. I want them to stop having power over me. Then we take away their power, he said simply. Their power was never money or status. Their power was my fear. My fear of being disowned, of being shamed, of being alone. Now that I was no longer afraid, their weapons were empty, but I wasn't reckless. I didn't post angry rants online. I didn't leak private messages for clout. I chose quiet, intentional, unshakable boundaries. First, I restored every client relationship my family had sabotaged. I posted a calm, factual professional statement on my business page. No drama, no emotion, just clarity. I explained that recent social rumors were unfounded, confirmed my husband's verified background through public records, and reaffirmed my commitment to my work. Slowly, professionally, my clients returned. Respect came back not from begging, but from consistency. Second, I cut every single remaining loose thread with my family. I deleted their numbers, muted every family group chat, removed every childhood family photo from my social media. I didn't do it out of malice. I did it to heal. While I rebuilt my life quietly, my family grew increasingly unhinged. They were waiting for my breakdown. They expected me to crawl back begging. When I didn't, when I continued thriving without them, their pride couldn't tolerate it. They began making mistakes. My aunt accidentally leaked a screenshot of the original wedding boycott group chat to a local moms group. The messages, "We let her learn her lesson, no exceptions, we don't attend this farce," went viral all over again. This time, there was no way to spin it. The public saw pure, unprovoked cruelty. No conspiracy, no manipulation, no hidden agenda from Elias. Just a wealthy family punishing their own daughter for loving someone they deemed beneath them. The internet erupted, local social circles completely turned on the Carters. Country club invitations vanished. Fundraising event coordinators removed my mother's name from volunteer boards. Neighbors whispered behind their backs. For the first time in her life, Elaine's social status crumbled. She panicked, desperate to regain control. She made her biggest mistake yet. She reached out directly to Elias. She sent him a private text, polite and falsely gracious, asking to meet alone to clear the air and repair family ties. I saw the text before Elias could reply. I knew exactly what she was doing. She planned to manipulate him, to charm him, to plant division between us, or to record the conversation for twisted out-of-context clips. I looked at Elias and said, "Don't go alone. I'm coming with you." Elaine chose a fancy downtown cafe for the meeting, intentionally picking a public, polished space where she could perform the role of grieving, forgiving mother. She arrived perfectly dressed, hairstyled, makeup flawless, carrying a designer purse like she was attending a charity gala instead of a desperate attempt to salvage her reputation. When she saw both of us walk in, her fake smile faltered for half a second. She'd planned to isolate Elias. She'd planned to manipulate him privately. With me present, her performance fell flat. We sat across from her at the outdoor patio table. She wasted no time launching into her rehearsed speech. "I've done a lot of reflection," she began softly. "I realize now I judged too quickly. I was scared for Lila's future. I was protective. I overreacted." I stared at her without blinking. No warmth, no softness, no willingness to fall for her act. Say it plainly, I said. No performances. No excuses. Did you or did you not coordinate the entire family boycott to humiliate me on my wedding day? Elaine's jaw tightened. She tried to dodge. I was guiding the family, yes or no? I cut her off. Finally, she huffed, defeated. Yes. I did it. But only because I thought you were making a terrible mistake. And now? I asked. Now that you know who Elias is, now that you know how wrong you were? She hesitated, then tried to twist it again. I still believe he hid his past intentionally to deceive us. Elias spoke up for the first time, his voice calm, low, and unshakable. I didn't hide my past from your family, he said. I never spoke to your family at all. I never owed them an explanation. I only hid it from Lila at first because I wanted her to love me for me, not my resume. Your judgment was yours alone. No manipulation required. Elaine's mask cracked completely. She leaned forward, voice sharp and bitter, dropping every polite pretense. This is what you do, isn't it? She snapped at Elias. You swoop in, pretend to be poor and humble, let everyone underestimate you, then destroy their lives with the truth. You ruined my family's reputation. You ruined our name. I didn't ruin anything, Elias replied steadily. Your pride ruined your reputation. Your choices ruined your family. I just married your daughter. The conversation was over if Elaine realized she could not manipulate us, could not divide us, could not guilt us into submission. She stood up, furious, and tossed one final threat. You think you've won? She hissed at me. Blood always wins. One day you'll need your family. And we won't be here. I stood up too, calm and unbreakable. I already needed you, I said. On my wedding day. You weren't there. So you're right. You won't be here for me anymore. But I won't be here for you either. We walked away and left her sitting alone at the cafe table, that afternoon. The final piece of the narrative flipped completely. A former high-profile client of Elias's anonymously reached out to multiple local news platforms, providing a short, dignified statement confirming Elias's character, professionalism, integrity, and voluntary early retirement. The statement explicitly stated he was never involved in scandal, danger, or manipulation, all remaining conspiracy. Theories died instantly. The public fully exonerated Elias. My family's reputation collapsed entirely. The power balance was completely reversed. They had no more social influence to weaponize. No more rumors to spread. No more friends willing to side with their cruelty. For the first time since the wedding, my family was the ones isolated, judged, and abandoned, and I was finally free. My family's downfall was swift and self-inflicted. Within days of the anonymous client statement, every last one of their social lies crumbled. The entire Austin suburban circle knew the truth. The Carters had cruelly boycotted their own daughter's wedding over classist snobbery, then spent months smearing a good man to save their pride. Relatives began turning on each other. Cousins blamed aunts. Aunts blamed my mother. My sister posted a vague social media cryptic message distancing herself from the cruel judgments of others. The family unity they'd weaponized against me shattered into petty infighting, desperate and cornered. Elaine tried one last Hail Mary. She called me, from a new number, after I'd blocked her old one. I answered once, just to hear her final attempt at control. Her voice was shaky, desperate, stripped of all arrogance. I'm sorry, she whispered. I was wrong. I was cruel. Come home, Lila, please. We'll accept Elias. We'll welcome him into the family. We'll do anything. It was the apology I'd spent my whole life waiting for, but it was too late. It wasn't genuine remorse. It was fear. She was apologizing only because she'd lost everything. She wanted me back not out of love, but to repair her broken status, to fix her fractured family, to regain social respectability through my redeemed marriage. I spoke gently, but firmly. I don't want your apology anymore, Mom. She froze. What? I spent years begging you to love me, to choose me, to see me, I said. You never did. You chose pride over your daughter on my wedding day. You chose lies over truth for months. You chose cruelty over mercy. Now that it costs you something, you're sorry. That's not love, that's regret. Tears cracked into her voice. I'm your mother, you are my biological mother, I corrected, but you are not my family anymore. Elias is my family now. My chosen family. The one that showed up for me when blood didn't. She began to cry, truly broken for the first time. I'll lose everything without you. You already lost me, I said quietly. A long time ago. I hung up the phone. I did not feel triumph. I did not feel revenge. I felt sad, quiet, final closure. Later that evening, my father sent me a long, heartfelt text. He admitted he'd always been too cowardly to stand up to my mother. He apologized for failing me as a father. He begged for a small chance to rebuild a relationship someday, slowly, on my terms. I read it 3 times. I didn't reply with anger. I replied with boundaries. I forgive you. But I don't need you in my life right now. If you ever want to try again, it will be on my rules. No status, no judgment, no pride. Only respect. Until then, we remain apart. It was the final decisive blow to the old world. The conflict was over. The lies were dead. The judgment was reversed. The family that abandoned me was now begging for crumbs of my grace, but I was no longer the girl who chased their love. 3 months later, life settled into quiet, unshakable peace. The viral wedding clip faded from public attention. The internet drama died down. The social media armies moved on to new stories. What remained was real life, stable, calm, entirely mine. My freelance business flourished. New clients found me not through family connections, but through my own talent and reputation. I built a small, steady client base that respected my work, not my last name. I no longer relied on my family's status to survive. I'd built my own. Elias continued working his quiet security job. He never quit, never flaunted his wealth, never sought attention or validation. He still came home every night with takeout, still held me when I was tired, still loved me softly and steadily. He never changed. Even after the whole world learned his secret, that was the man I married. On our 3-month wedding anniversary, we returned to the same downtown venue where I'd once walked alone down an empty aisle. The staff recognized us now. They smiled and waved. The string quartet played the same song from our wedding day, but everything felt different. Last time, the room was empty except for strangers and pity. This time, it was full of us, our quiet life, our hard-won peace, our proven love. We stood together in front of the altar where we'd said our vows. The empty chairs no longer felt like humiliation. They felt like freedom. I whispered to Elias. I walked this aisle alone once. He pulled me into his arms. Warm and steady. You'll never walk alone again, he said. I thought back to the girl I was on my wedding day, scared, grieving, desperate for family approval, convinced I was losing everything for love. She didn't lose anything. She gained everything. I lost a toxic, judgmental family. I gained self-respect. I lost a false sense of belonging. I gained real, unconditional love. I lost the need to be validated by others. I gained the courage to choose myself. A few loose ends remain. My father still sends occasional gentle check-in texts, never pushing, never demanding, simply trying to do better. I reply sometimes, short and kind, keeping slow, safe distance. I may heal that bond someday, but only when it's healthy, only on my terms. My mother never reached out again after our final call. She never apologized publicly, never owned her cruelty. She lives with the quiet consequences of her own choices. I feel no bitterness toward her anymore. I simply feel neutral, indifferent. Free. Revenge was never my victory, growth was. I did not destroy my family. I saved myself from them. As we left the venue that night, hand in hand, the sunset glowed golden over the Austin skyline. No cameras, no viral clips, no public drama. Just two people who chose each other against every judgment, every lie, every status-bound expectation. My wedding day started as my greatest humiliation. It ended as my greatest blessing. I walked down the empty aisle alone, but I built a full, beautiful life on the other side.